There's a lot of misinformation going on about the red heifer. Many have come to believe that it's a necessity to find one of these before the return of Christ. And some believe it's necessary to have this as a purification for the third temple, which also must be built before Christ can return. So there's all this kind of decisions that are being made based on erroneous information. So the Jews have been going on about this for the last almost 2,000 years, looking for a red heifer, thinking that it is a necessity to find one that has no spot and no blemish so that they can do these things. But the Bible doesn't say that. The Bible is very clear in Numbers 19 and verse 2. Numbers 19 and verse 2, this has nothing to do with the return of Christ or the building of the temple. Notice what it says here. It says, "This is the ordinance of the law which Lord has commanded, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, that they bring you a red heifer without blemish, in which there is no defect, and on which a yoke has never come." So what we have here is a situation. It was a ceremony, a ritual, that the Israelites, of which Judah or the Jews were only one tribe, were supposed to go through, and it had nothing to do with the return of Christ, and it had nothing to do with the third temple. Rather, it had to do with certain purity rituals that they had to go through had they touched a dead person, their bones, a grave, or some of the contaminated area around it. So it had nothing to do with it, and you go read this in context. Also, when it's talking about spot and blemish, is talking about an animal with a defect. God did not want them to take from the poorest of their flock, the ones that were lame, and give them to him. He says, no, I want them to be without spot or blemish. So it wasn't even really talking about the fact that there may be two white hairs on this red heifer. So what we have today are people under this erroneous belief that this is what you have to find. Now, of course, this is what the Old Testament says. In the New Testament, it's very clear now that the sacrifices have been done away. They were done away with at the time of Reformation when Christ became that sacrifice. But also it goes on to even specifically say in Hebrews that the ashes of a heifer is not necessary. These things were not necessary in today's terms. So even if they were once required for some type of ceremony back in the time, it's no longer required. So brethren, I don't want us to be fooled by false signs. The red heifer is not one of the signs that must precede the returning of Christ.